Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Coffee and Sports in the Morning. I'm your host, Mr. William B. Morgan, right here on Wire to Wire Sports. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's having a great day, having a great start to your morning. There we go. Now, let me go ahead and bring my man Mo in. Mo, what's going on with you? How you doing this morning?
Hey, what's good, Will? Good morning. Good morning to everybody, and thank you for joining us.
Ah, all right. Got a lot to talk about. First thing I do want to say, we're both wrestling fans. So at the end of the day, there was some news that came through. I want to go ahead and touch on this first. Big congratulations to Triple H as he's been inducted into the 2025 WWE Hall of Fame. Do you think this is well deserved, Mo?
This is beyond well deserved.
Yeah,
I think when you talk about some of the goats of the wrestling industry, I think Triple H's name should be right up there with anybody else's. He's been that type of performer. And if you look in the bigger picture, his evolution from the performer that he was to now what he's doing behind the scenes with the company, I just think he's had an amazing career in front of and behind the camera.
I think so too. I think so too. Well deserved for Triple H, multiple time world champion. His impact has not only been tremendous, not only inside of the ring, but outside of the ring as well. Also, what he's done bringing Shawn Michaels into run in NXT, I thought that was a fantastic move from him. Good stuff, man. Congrats to Triple H. Well deserved, well deserved. Um, I want to know who might be next. Who do you think might be next behind him?
That's not already in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's certain guys that are easy. Cena's gonna walk in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, like Cena's been the ultimate company man. If you think about it, I don't know if there's any superstar in wrestling history, maybe Ric Flair, that's put over more other wrestlers, put over more performers than John Cena. Like John Cena has done the work. He's elevated other performers at his own cost. He's been that guy. For years, I used to make the comparison that John Cena was the LeBron James of wrestling. You know what I mean? Like he had accomplished everything, and he'd gone from they loved him, they cheered him, to at some point, Will, you know this, they booed him all the time.
They did. They
And the
did.
most and the most amazing thing is they booed him, and he never changed his character. He didn't become a heel. They just started booing him. It was a weird relationship. And then in the end, on the back end of his career, they loved him again.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I remember some of his matches with Kurt Angle. The match was amazing, man. Shout out to John Cena. All right, I just thought that was an amazing move for the E. It kind of caught me off guard a little bit because I thought you couldn't have made any excuse to bring him in 2026, but 2025 I have to admit it's perfect timing. Perfect timing. All right, let's move over to your Los Angeles Lakers. Start off with a little NBA news. It looks like AD is going to be out for a week with some type of abdominal injury. I wanted to ask you, does this make the Lakers does this elevate the need for the Lakers to get a true big man?
I think they've been really kicking the doors about trying to bring in a big man. My thing is this: you have to bring in a big man that fits with what they do.
Right.
Um, uh, that what they don't need is a slow, plotting kind of guy. Like, there's been a lot of talk about them bringing in Valanciunas, and I was like, why would you do that? I don't even understand that. Like, Valanciunas is like one of the few NBA players that I could still guard, and out and outrun. Um, he's just so slow, plotting. Plus, he gives you nothing defensively.
Right.
What I think they need, they don't have to have a scoring big man, but they do need a big man that can defend at the rim and rebound at a high level. If you can get somebody like that who doesn't necessarily have to have the ball, but can be impactful off the ball, that'd be a great fit. The question is, though, what do you have to give up in return? Because you know this, the Lakers fan base, and I'm saying this as a Laker fan,
Mhm.
can sometimes overvalue their own talent. Like they like to make up these hypothetical lopsided trades and say it's good for both teams. Like they'll say something like, why don't we give we'll give the Sixers Vando and a second round pick, and all we want back is Embiid, and that looks like a good trade for both teams. Like, they do things like that. I don't think they always live in reality. The reality is, if you want a big man who can impact the game, or any player that can impact the game, you're going to have to give up something of value.
Yes.
Point blank, you're going to have to give up something of value.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, my questioning is though, they're what, fifth in the West right now, if memory serves?
I think fourth or fifth in the West. Yeah.
What big man would you have in mind? Maybe Big Vu from the Bulls, maybe?
See, I think Vucevic would be a really good fit in a lot of systems, but definitely in the Lakers system because he can play inside and out. And there will be, I think, opportunities where you could play him and Anthony Davis at the same time.
Yeah.
Because they both have the ability to stretch the floor. Vucevic even more so than Davis.
Yep.
Not a great defender, but he wouldn't have to be if he's on the floor at the same time as Anthony Davis. So yeah, I think Vooch would be a great pick. Again, though, what would the Bulls want in return? Like, let's be realistic. If you're the Bulls and the Lakers come to you like, we're really interested in Vucevic, you're going to be like, yeah, we're not really interested in nobody. You guys are talking about bringing, you know what I mean? Like, who?
Because you know that 4 players off the table. Ain't gonna be Bron, ain't gonna be AD, ain't gonna be Connect, and it ain't gonna be Reeves.
Yeah, I don't think they'd even offer up Austin Reeves, and if I'm the Bulls, at a minimum, you're giving me Austin Reeves,
right?
So the Laker fan base has big aspirations. I don't, because I think that every team is going to say, what do you have of value to us? Period.
Rather than looking at, hey Christopher, thank you for coming to the stream. We appreciate you, bro. Rather than looking at Cousins or Dwight Howard anymore.
Washed. Dwight Howard didn't wake up one day and go, man, you know what? I'm sick of the NBA. I'm gonna go hoop it up in the Philippines.
Facts.
The league told Dwight Howard, the Lakers told Dwight Howard, don't need you. Done. Don't need you. So while Dwight Howard looks in terrific shape and he always stays in terrific shape, nobody wants him. DeMarcus Cousins is a shell of what he was. He's tried multiple comebacks. I just don't think it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. They're just done. They're on the other side of their careers. They're where they should be, over there in the Philippines and overseas, extending their basketball dreams. But for what they could do in the NBA at the highest level, I think it's a minimal.
You saw your boy Isaiah Thomas over there scoring 40.
Right. That's actually a good example. That's a good example. I mean, if you're a former NBA player that's a star and you want an ego boost, go over to the Philippines and beat up on them cats. But I'm just being real.
Yeah.
But the reality is that both Cousins and Dwight Howard, they're on the older side. And DeMarcus Cousins has another thing going on, is his body's literally broken down over the years.
Yeah.
I don't see, I could be wrong, but I just don't see either of them back in the NBA.
Staying in the NBA, I got into a discussion with somebody about the Kings and De'Aaron Fox. Do you think the Kings are ready for a rebuild, and should they be looking for trade suitors to start that rebuild by trading De'Aaron Fox?
Yeah, so a lot of people will say, like, well, you don't trade a transcendent player like De'Aaron Fox. He's a terrific player, but he's not a transcendent player. He's a talented offensive player who's still, I think he's around 26 years old, so still a young guy. But if you look at Sacramento, they didn't make the playoffs last year, Will. They had the blip season where they made the playoffs the previous year and got knocked out in the first round by the Warriors. What they do is they put together a team that's just competitive enough to give their fan base hope. And I'm not talking about hope to win a title, but hope to make the playoffs. I think you're just spinning your wheels. At some point, you need to reset. De'Aaron Fox is a terrific player.
Yes.
But let me simplify this. If he's your best player, you're not a title contender. Let me simplify it.
Hey, that's a good point.
He's a terrific player, but if he's your best player, you're not a title contender. De'Aaron Fox needs to go somewhere where he needs to play with someone who's better, or at least at a higher level than he is. He cannot carry a franchise. I've heard people go, but they got Sabonis and look at the numbers. Yes, Sabonis is. You know what Sabonis is? His game and his numbers are very much a symptom of today's NBA. He's going to give you 20 points, 14 rebounds, 8 assists, and it's going to look amazing. You're going to tell me all the times he's had double-doubles and triple-doubles. But what he doesn't do, he doesn't elevate his teammates.
Right.
You can't build a team around Sabonis. At best, he's your second-best player, and I will go as far as the same way I feel about Fox, I feel about Sabonis. If he's your second-best player, you're not a title contender. Sabonis should probably be a team's third-best player. That's just the reality of it. If you're Sacramento, you're just spinning your wheels. Like they got really geeked because Doug Christie came in after they fired Mike Brown, and they've had the honeymoon period where they played much better. But in the bigger arc, Will, I'll ask you: are the Kings title contenders? Are they one of those teams that if they get the right matchup, they can go on a deep playoff run? They are not.
No,
they are not. So I don't think it's stunning or surprising that they're looking to move on and get back some value and try to rebuild a little bit. Maybe they do hold on to Sabonis. I like Malik Monk as a sixth man. I think that's a perfect role for him. But if you're going to have a slight rebuild, I have to assume they're also going to move DeRozan too, because DeMar's 34, 35. He's not part of your future.
And he's we brought his age, but he's also old school with the mid-range.
Right. Which, by the way, I still think holds great value because he has the mid-range and he still does have that other superpower, the ability to get to the free throw line. I think DeMar has value, but I think at this stage in his career, I think DeMar would be a great sixth man.
Now, what kind of trade would you put out there for De'Aaron Fox if you were the GM for the Kings?
What I would on a wish list,
yeah,
I'd like to get at least 2 or 3 number ones back. And maybe a rotational player, a young rotational player that can still be developed. Because you're not going to trade star for star, right? We know that never happens. You never
does happen.
You never get equal value when you make a move like that. But if you can get back the assets that I'm talking about in the first round picks and a player that can go right into their rotation, again, they're looking to do they want to call it a mini rebuild. I'll go with that. But I think what they want to do is they want to draft their next franchise player. Because remember, Sacramento, small market team, what we already know is they can have a ton of cap space. What we know already is no top free agent is going to go to Sacramento. It's not going to happen. It will not happen. So they have to do it the hard way. They have to do it through the draft. They have to do it through smart trades. This isn't about De'Aaron Fox not being an all-star, terrific player. I just
it's not about him per se.
No, it's not. This is just about the ceiling of this iteration of the Sacramento Kings.
Right.
They're a team that is a playoff contender, not a title contender.
Staying in NBA, and I wanted to get your TikTok out there. Go ahead and let everybody know what your TikTok handle is.
You can find me at MoBetter3000 on TikTok, and I'm usually just asking random. I like to do fantasy matchups, so I'll do something like last night. I did Derek Coleman versus Zion Williamson 1-on-1. Who would win?
And that's what I want to talk about because I watched DC as a kid. I was a Syracuse fan growing up, and I watched a lot of DC, a lot of Ronnie Cycling and company. What was your opinion on DC? Do you think he met up to his potential as a player?
He didn't.
No.
He didn't. A lot of times we do that even now and today with certain players. We talk about their potential or we talk about their talent. And I'm always telling people, I don't disagree with you about potential. I don't disagree with you about talent, but talent and potential, they're not a default to you being great.
Right.
They're not a default to you being great.
Right.
Derek Coleman could have been great, and he kind of cheated himself because he never really got to his full potential. He just didn't do it. So a lot of guys don't do it. That's why I'm always telling guys, pump the brakes before you start anointing young players.
Right.
After they have one big season, you're already comparing them to all-time greats. Don't do that. Don't do that. Let him have a career first. DC definitely came up short in what he could have been. Some guys come up short. Will, you notice because their body breaks down
Yep.
and the injury gods are just unkind to them. In
Yep.
DC's case, I think more times than not, he was kind of lazy.
He had everything in his kit, though.
He was kind of ahead of his time. He was a power forward with a handle. He could break down off the dribble. He had a mid range, athletic, could finish strong, had a post game, a good passer. He had everything you needed to be that dude, and he never really reached his full potential.
Yeah, he could have been better. He could have been better.
No question, Christopher. He could have been much better. And that's the fun part about doing the fantasy matchups, right? Because in a game of one-on-one, the best basketball player is not going to always win. Right. One-on-one is a completely different game. So when people start throwing in, I think I did one about Hakeem and versus Joker. And somebody threw in, well, Joker averages almost 10 assists a game. And I was like, that has no bearing on the game of one-on-one. He ain't pass. Who he passed one-on-one? Right. It don't matter. It don't matter at all. I don't know why you brought that in there. He ain't right. Nobody. It's one-on-one. And so that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it fun, these fantasy matchups. And I like to do it by blending eras together. So I'm always take a guy from the late 80s, 90s, and match them up with some of the current stars of the day because it's fun. And for me, personally, it goes to a bigger question. It's one of the main reasons why I do these matchups. And it goes to a bigger question because you hear it all the time, like today's player is so much more talented, they're bigger, stronger, faster. They're really not. They're really not. Bigger, stronger, like the only guy that's bigger and stronger, he's been in the league 20 years. He's bigger and stronger because he's the biggest perimeter player I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But he's not from this era. He came from 2003, 2004.
True.
He's not from there. Shaq's not from this era. He's from the 92 class.
Yep.
So what are you talking about? The biggest, strongest guy was from 92.
Yep.
Magic's from what? 79, 80?
79, 80.
So there's a perception about bigger, stronger, faster. It doesn't really match up to reality. They're not really bigger, stronger, faster.
Somebody asked me this question. Speaking of old school fantasy matchups, who had the better handle, Isaiah Thomas or Tim Hardaway?
Ooh. So I'm going to go with Isaiah Thomas. I think Tim Hardaway had the killer move. When he did that U-tip two-step crossover, it's a killer move. And he did it with power. But Isaiah Thomas, he had the kind of handles where he could have been on the Globetrotters. He had that kind of handle. Like Zeke has he got a handle on him. He got a bag. Like we talk about the greatest handles of all time. I think it's Kyrie, but I think right behind Kyrie, I'd have Isaiah Thomas.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, let's go ahead and talk a little bit of WNBA. And there was some trades that went down the past 3 days. The Sparks getting Kelsey Plum is just sick. That's just sick. Who's your early WNBA favorite to win the title this year?
I like what the Aces did to bolster their roster. And I there's no doubt in my mind with the team still intact, the Liberty going to be right back there, right? The champs, champs are going to be right back there. Maybe they'll be even more motivated to try to pull off a two-peat. So I think those are still the cream of the crop, but I think it's going to be a very competitive season. I think what the WNBA commissioner wished for, if she had a wish list, she wanted more parity. I think that's exactly what she's going to get.
Like I say, I just love this Kelsey Plum and Cameron Brink coming back from injury.
That's big.
That's going to be tough.
And they're good players, but they also bring star power.
Yeah. That's going to be such a tough team to beat. I can't wait to see them play. All right, let's move on over to the NFL a little bit. Then we'll get into some boxing and some of the stuff that Deontay Wilder said. We'll get into that a little bit later. I wanted to ask you, have the Chiefs become the new villains in the NFL?
Yeah, I think they've been the villains maybe the last year or so. Not because
even bigger than the Patriots.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. Look, you think about this now. There was some grounded hate for the Patriots, right?
True that.
Like you hear people now talking about, well, Kansas City, they get all they got all the big calls and the big games. Isn't that what the Patriots did?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they get all that's what the Patriots did all the time. Um, they even did things that you go, well, that's a penalty, but they got away with it. I remember the Super Bowl against the Rams. Marshall Faulk ran a swing route, so he just flared out.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember which linebacker it was, but the Patriots linebacker just straight leveled him, just cracked him, sent him to the ground. No call. Keep it moving. Look, and I'm not taking away from the Patriots' success. I do believe that old saying that success breeds contempt.
Yes.
If you see Patrick Mahomes win it all the time, him and Reed, and then and they build this resume of success and nobody can knock them out, it eventually, outside of being a Chiefs fan, most other fan bases, you start finding ways to dislike them. You do. I'm not like that, by the way. And they beat my team in the Super Bowl last year. I'm frustrated because I wanted to be the team to knock them off that pedestal, right?
Right.
And we weren't able to get it done. And look, I hope the Eagles are able to get it done. Not because I'm anti this or anti that. I look at it a different way. If the Eagles win, it makes for a perfect capper of Saquon Barkley leaving the Giants. Like, think about the extreme. All right, we don't want you. And he not only goes to the Super Bowl, he wins the Super Bowl. If he doesn't do another thing bigger than that in his Eagles career, he's a made man.
True.
You know what I mean? He is a made man forever. So I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for Jalen Hurts, guys like that, who I'm just fans of.
How you doing, Andrew? Welcome to the stream, my friend. I appreciate you coming through. If the Chiefs were to three-peat, what does that put them all time, though?
Look, I know people are sentimental about some of the greats. You can look at the Steelers teams of the 70s, the Niners of the 80s, the Cowboys of the 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're above all those. I think they're above all those. They would literally fall to me right behind the Patriots. And I don't think they're done. That's the scary part.
Right.
Mahomes is 29. I think Big Red wants to coach at least a couple more years. So yeah, I think all time, even though they would three-peat, which is something the Patriots didn't do, people ask me, would you rather have the three-peat, Will, or would you rather have more Super Bowl trophies? I'd rather have more Super Bowl trophies. I think the three-peat is amazing.
Yeah.
But when I look at my trophy case, I got more trophies, and that's all that matters.
I want some more rings.
Yeah, I want more rings. So I do think it's a great accomplishment, and they will be the first to have done it. But I'm rolling with what the Patriots did. They were so dominant, Will. Like, we got so used to them being in the Super Bowl. And give Belichick and Brady credit. They did the one thing you had to do when you're doing a run like that. They didn't just win their division. They dominated their division, right? Like, gonna win the division, gonna get a bye, and be waiting for you in the AFC title game. Like, they just did that consistently.
What's up, my co-host on the Sports Report, which you can listen to right here on Wire to Wire Sports every Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Good to have you here, my friend. And this is the thing that does make me upset. Didn't get the rushing title like the 2,000 mark I think he should have. That's the one thing that makes me upset about Saquon this year. He's done everything else right. Don't get me wrong, but that's just the one thing that makes me upset. And maybe I go back to Barry Sanders not getting it. Do you think he played that right?
I don't know if he played that right, but I would say in this day and age, with the mission being to win a Super Bowl, I think the Eagles played it right. If I'm the GM, if I'm the head coach, if I'm the medical staff, let's remember this: as gifted a player as Saquon Barkley is, he's got an injury history, right? He hasn't been the most durable guy in the world. And if it came down to his injury history and him winning a rushing crown or breaking Eric Dickerson's record, I would have been like, we should have done that in like week 15. Like, you know what I mean? Because if
Right.
I have a chance to rest him going into the playoffs, I'm gonna rest him. I mean, as a fan, selfishly, Will, I wanted him to break it. I wanted
Yeah.
him to break it.
Me
And
too.
and hearing what Eric Dickerson said, it made me want him to break it more, but at the same time, it made me respect Eric Dickerson even more too, because Eric Dickerson was honest. Eric, most guys go, well, he's getting ready to break your record, and they say stuff like, well, records are meant to be broken. Eric Dickerson said, no, I don't want him to break my record. Like, that is honesty. Of course you don't want him to break his record.
Honesty to the 100th level.
You think Kareem was happy when LeBron broke the record? Of course not.
No.
He was there clapping. He was doing all the right things and celebrating him. But on the inside, that dude was screaming.
Now, I want to ask this question. Let me word this in the correct way. Does Jalen Hurts deserve any credit for helping the Philadelphia Eagles get to the Super Bowl, or do we just look at everything as the addition of Saquon Barkley, then everything else falling into place?
I think Jalen Hurts is one of the most underappreciated talents in the National Football League. What you definitely can give Saquon flowers for what he added to the team and where they're at.
Yes.
But I want to remind people, this will be Jalen Hurts' second Super Bowl appearance. So he's not new to this. He's not new to having this kind of success.
Right.
Is he the same type of quarterback as a Josh Allen or a Lamar or a Mahomes? Or we can talk about all those guys. He has similar characteristics of a Josh Allen, but he doesn't have Josh Allen's arm talent.
Right.
He has similar characteristics to Lamar, but he doesn't run as well as Lamar does. Like, I think but he does a lot of things really well. And I do think sometimes he gets lost in the sauce. But I also think that when you listen to him in the post-game press conference, I thought he was spot on. He's trying to win a Super Bowl. He's about winning Super Bowls, right? I don't think he has a problem with playing complementary football if he hands the ball to Saquon Barkley and the defense can't stop him. So I think he does deserve a lot of credit for what he's done. And I think that the guy that's getting forgotten about as we head into the Super Bowl is Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
I don't think Saquon Barkley is going to rush for 150 yards against the Kansas City Chiefs.
No.
But if he can rush for 90 yards, just make them still always respect the run. I think the guy that's going to have to make the big plays and really put them on their back to some degree is going to be Jalen Hurts.
And speaking of the Super Bowl, can't talk this morning. Who is your dark horse for Super Bowl MVP?
Dark horse for Super Bowl MVP.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm going to go Chris Jones.
That's interesting choice.
I'm going to Chris Jones because he's a big time playoff performer. And as good as the Eagles' offensive line is, he's a dominant guy. I don't think you're going to be able to block Chris Jones with one guy.
For some reason, I think the tight end is an issue for the Chiefs. And I'm going with Dallas Goedert because of that. I think he can eat somewhat in this game. So my dark horse is Dallas Goedert. That's my dark horse. Because it seems to be that the tight end is an issue for the Chiefs throughout the season. And he's a very good tight end. What would you say he was? Maybe not as good as the upper echelon, but in the hall of the very good?
I think he's right there. And probably in a different system that highlighted what he could do, I think Goddard would be a perennial Pro Bowler.
Tony said Kareem Hunt. I feel you, man. I mean,
if KC gets down to the 1 yard line, he gets a lot of 1 yard plunges, but he ain't gonna run for like 100, 150 yards. Like, but he all right.
You know, the one person who I am rooting for in KC, and hoping that they get, rooting for him if they get the victory, would be happy for him. DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy for D-Hop, but because he's had the kind of career that he's had, I
Mm.
hope that he's a bigger part of the game, Will. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It'd be nice, let's say if D Hop could have a 6-catch, 90-yard game with a couple of touchdowns. Like, if he's impactful, I would love that even more for him. And I'm sure he would rather do it that way too than just be standing on the sidelines watching the other guys do it.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. For sure. I know a couple of people I was talking to yesterday, out on the road. One dude said Xavier Worthy.
I think that's a reach. I think Worthy can have a good game. I don't see him being a Super Bowl MVP. They draw up a lot of things for him. He's not a natural route runner.
Right.
So I think he can be effective. I don't think he's going to be that good. I would say that the guy that you might want to watch would be Smith for the Eagles, because I think they'll be focusing so much more on AJ Brown and Goddard that it's going to give Smith a lot of one-on-one.
Might be interesting to see too. Great second receiver. Love to see him be successful in the Super Bowl.
He said Xavier's Debo 2.0. Come on, man.
National team, man.
Come on, man. Debo's like 225 and runs like a running back. Settle down. He's not Debo. He would have to eat a lot more turkey before he becomes Debo. Come on, man. Come on.
Now I got into an argument about it was last year. Got to an argument on another show. And I'm going to your 49ers, right? He brought that up. Who's the better receiver, Debo or Ayuk?
Ayuk.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said.
Here's the thing: if Worthy's career is going to be Debo Samuel's, not going to have that great career. This is coming from a Niners fan,
right?
Don't get caught up in highlights. Get caught up with what he actually does. Debo Samuel's not a good route runner. Debo Samuel's, he's a better football player than Brandon Ayuk. He is not a better wide receiver. Do you know what I'm saying? He never has been. He's not, even at he's got a lot of mileage out of that one huge season he had. What has it been, like 4 years ago?
Yep.
But look at him as a whole. He's not one of the top 10 wide receivers in football. He never has been.
No.
Look, I'm a Niners fan. Debo Samuels is one of the most vastly overrated players in football. He just is. And a lot of people talk about the Niners making tough decisions. It would not be a hard decision for me to let that dude go.
So you look at him as more of an expensive gadget guy.
Well, that's what he is. Yeah. They can put him in the backfield. They can run jet sweeps. But what he doesn't do is he doesn't dominate.
Stop it, Seven.
He doesn't dominate. There's no results. He don't do much to do any results. Have you looked at his career?
Stop it, Seven. Stop it. Stop it. This is not the New Orleans Saints. Stop it.
You know what Debo does better than any other receiver? He spends a lot of time on the sidelines. That's what he do. He spent a lot of time on the sidelines.
Yeah. Now, it looks like Mike McCarthy is going to be out of coaching for this year. And it's like maybe Kellen Moore might be who the Saints' choice of coach would be. Do you think that will be a good hire?
I don't think it's a bad hire. But what is the direction that the Saints are going in? Because they're kind of in this in-between. You still have Alvin Kamara, who's very talented, but I could be wrong. Though Kamara's got to be 29, 30. He's got to be creeping up on that number. And then you've got Derek Carr, who I just think, you know what? Derek Carr is the Debo Samuels of quarterbacks.
Hey, not only that, Taysom Hill old, Demario Davis old.
I'm saying that's all.
Cam Jordan old.
Yes, keep it going. Right. So if you're bringing in Kellen Moore, if I'm Kellen Moore, the first thing I would say to the GM and the ownership, like, am I allowed to have a draft and try to build and put together the team that I want? Do you know what I mean? Like, I need to get some of these dinosaurs up out of here and rebuild, because let's start at the quarterback. We need to solve the quarterback problem.
Right.
Derek Carr, if you want us to draft the guy this year and hold on to Carr for another year or two, I get that. That makes sense to me. But going forward, Derek Carr's not part of your future. He's not. He's not part of your future. And so I think that it's a good move. It would be a solid pickup, but they need to clean house.
My thing is this, and this is what I think they should do. I think you keep who you had. I think you keep your current intern head coach. You keep him. You got to go with if you bench Carr, you got Rattler who is younger but isn't where he needs to be right now, but still, at least he's younger on the uptick, so you can see what you have in him. And then 2026, once you have some cap space, and be a little bit more attractive, then look for your head coach at that point. Because right now, and the main thing they need to do is get rid of Mickey Loomis. When that man said, we look past the results in terms of how the team performed this year, I was done with him. I was done. We look past the no.
We're on the same page. We're on the same page with that. Get rid of Mickey Loomis. Start there. Start there. But I do think you have a really good point about keeping the interim coach in place, making some smart moves, and going forward that way. Look, I don't think Kellen Moore is bad, but I will say this. There are a lot of coaches out there, Will, and you can appreciate this, that they're just not head coaches. They're just better at being coordinators.
Right.
I think Kellen Moore is one of those guys.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think he's a leader of men. I don't think he's that dude, but I think he's a terrific coordinator.
Yeah, exactly. From week one. Exactly. Because you can't do it this year because the quarterback class is not that great this year in the draft. So, hey, you got to be ready for 2026. You got to be. Well, let me ask you this. Going into the big game after the season besides the Super Bowl, want to talk about the Pro Bowl and the Pro Bowl process. Do you have an issue with that?
I feel like the Pro Bowl, where they are with the Pro Bowl now, it almost feels like all the different games and events you have at like a carnival and stuff. But it doesn't feel like a Pro Bowl anymore, right? Like, all these skill competitions, and I understand we're in a different era, and it's all about keeping guys safe, keeping guys healthy, so you don't want to play a full game. I'm, as a fan, if I find out who makes the Pro Bowl, who gets that honor, that's good enough for me.
Yep.
That's good enough for me.
Yep.
I don't really need all the little sideshows and the little skill. I don't even care about stuff like that. I'm gonna be honest. I don't watch the current version of the Pro Bowl. I have no interest in any of that.
Right.
But if you tell me, well, Brandon Ayuk made the Pro Bowl. If you tell me, you know what I mean? That's all. I just need to know who was good enough, who got the honor, who got that recognition. We can keep it moving after that. Like, a matter of fact, if you want to entertain me, I'd rather look at like old clips of old great players for an hour or two than watch those stupid skills competitions. I'm just not into that. It's a lot of nothing. So I can't. I'm only speaking for myself. I don't have any interest in it.
Yeah, I feel you. I understand that. I do understand that. In the news yesterday, Jets agrees to terms with Steve Wilks for the defensive coordinator. How do you feel about that particular hire? I think it's the right hire, going by his reputation, but will it end up being a good hire with that staff?
It's kind of weird because Wilks was the guy that the Niners replaced Saleh with when he left.
Mm-hmm.
And when Wilks took over, the defense didn't do that great. It took a step back.
Mm-hmm.
It took a step back. I think he's a solid coordinator. What I will say is this: talent-wise, the Jets' defense, talent-wise, he has a ton to work with. So I do think he's a good hire. Like, if you can't come in there with that group that he has at all three levels and make that work, clearly there's something wrong with you. So I do think it's a good hire. I'll be interested to see if he try to implement some of the schemes he did with the Niners. My guess is he's just going to try to replicate what they did last year for the most part, because that is as talented a defense as you'll find in all the NFL, period. I'm just talking about at all three levels. They as much turmoil as they have on offense, they're loaded on defense.
The cupboard definitely isn't bare on the defensive side of the football. Definitely. They just need to stay healthy.
Yes. And that's their biggest challenge, right? If they can stay healthy with that unit, they're going to be a top three defense, if not number one, all season.
Easily, if they can stay healthy. All right, I do want to go into the world of boxing and these idiotic comments by Deontay Wilder. Says he could beat a prime Mike Tyson in the ring. Bruh. Really?
I think people say things to get clicks and to get responses. You can't, you don't really believe that. You know what I mean? Like, and let's be honest, the last couple of times we've seen you in the ring, you look like Glass Joe. So a prime Mike Tyson versus Wilder, who, let's keep it 100. I think Wilder's about 6'5", about 238, 240. He's literally a bigger man than Mike Tyson.
He is.
And I still think a prime Mike Tyson would chop him down like a lumberjack.
I think so too.
He would mow right through him because as powerful as Wilder is, he's easy to hit. And Mike Tyson is the wrong person to be easy to hit against.
Yeah.
If they boxed, it's sleepy time in 2 rounds.
He ain't even gonna give him 3 rounds. I agree though. He would be out. The Pro Bowl is exciting as a small time church cookout.
I agree with that statement.
Dag, Seven.
Right.
Do you think boxing is starting to make a comeback, so to speak?
I wanted to, and I thought there was a moment when it was. Obviously, we got the Bud and the Spence fight, which was huge. It wasn't a good fight, but it was huge. The problem with today's boxing, and I would say boxing over the last 15 to 20 years, it takes forever, Will, and you know this. It takes forever to get the top fighters to fight the other top fighters.
Agreed.
And more times than not, what happens is the fight that we should get in 2025, we don't get it till 2035 when both boxers are past their prime. Which is why I don't think boxing is ever going to make a full return to what it was, because that's the current status of business. The promoters control everything, and today's fighters, they make a lot more business decisions. Like, I could fight this guy who's top 3 and then the other guy who's top 5, or I could fight some bums that are right outside the top 10 and make some millions. They're going to fight those bums, and they're going to make their millions.
Oh, yeah, they're going to make their money. That is true. And it hurts us. It's fans, and it hurts the sports. It hurts the sport at the end of the day.
It has. Look, and I'm not blaming any one person, but Floyd is a big part of that.
Yep. He is. All right, let me go back to the women's side of things very quickly. Another question that's been asked of me in the past, and you can go multiple ways of this. Greatest female athlete of all time.
Ooh, greatest female athlete of all time. And that's tough. I'm gonna go Serena Williams. Yeah, I just, in the sport of tennis, I've said this a long time ago, that tennis, the endurance that they have to have, the athleticism that they have to have, they're constantly stop and go, cut. I mean, they work as hard as any athlete, and it's a one-on-one competition. For what she did over the period of time that she did it in, I don't even think it's close. I'm going with Serena Williams.
Me too. Everything that she did was just amazing. There's some women behind her that you can put on that list, but they definitely can't touch her in terms of accomplishments and impact on the sport too.
Yeah, look, when we say 10 greatest athletes of all time, I'm not mad at anybody that has Serena on that list. She should be on that list.
Yep, I agree. All right, we got 16 minutes left. Let's go ahead and continue the show. Now, I was looking at the Michael Jordan documentary the other day. Do you think that was the greatest sports documentary of all time?
I don't know if it was the greatest, but I'll tell you what, he dropped it at the perfect time. We were going through COVID, and everybody was stuck in the crib. And I don't know if it was MJ or his people, but they was like, "Oh, we gotta let this go now." They knew
Yeah.
You gotta captivate an audience. Everybody at the crib. Everybody's at the crib.
Everybody at home.
So it was one. I think it's a terrific documentary. But two, I don't know if it's the greatest, but the timing was so on point.
Yeah, it was.
It just everything just aligned perfectly. That's why everybody tuned in to watch it. And here's the thing. Remember, that's The Last Dance. I still think there's going to be a definitive Michael Jordan documentary that will drop. That will be more about Michael Jordan. That hasn't
the
dropped.
Bulls.
Right. That hasn't dropped yet, but when that drops, I think that's going to even be bigger than The Last Dance.
Agreed. I do agree with you. His story is compelling. Want to go back to the NFL as we go around Coffee and Sports in the morning. Definitely join us every Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. And I keep thinking of my show, 9 a.m. Eastern time. I do want to ask this question. Patrick Mahomes, who does he closely resemble? Who is he more? Who does he resemble more? Michael, MJ, or LeBron?
I think he's got a little bit of both of them in him, right? Like, I've seen him make incredible individual moves with his legs. That would have been MJ. But I've also seen him make passes to teammates that any other quarterback couldn't get through that window. I think he's got a little bit of both in him. He certainly isn't as cocky as Michael Jordan. He seems to be a lot more humble and about business. But I think he's got a little bit of both in him in terms of how he plays the game. He's definitely got that whole cerebral thing where he's realizing, like, my team's not built for a shootout. Okay, then I'm just going to milk the clock,
right?
Keep the other team off the field and win that way. Like, I just think he's one of those few guys that if you said who's he more like, I think he's got a little bit of both of them in them. And I'm jealous. How many people could say they got a little bit of MJ and LeBron in them?
Give me your thoughts. We're about to hit the All-Star break in the NBA. Give me your thoughts about the season thus far. Some of your highlights, some of the things you've been excited about, some things you've been disappointed about with the NBA so far this season.
I enjoy right now. I've been enjoying what the Cavs have done in the Eastern Conference. Very impressed. I feel the same way about the Thunder in the West. When I look at both of the franchises, clearly there's a separation because OKC is unique in that they're a younger team with a ton of picks with cap space. They can actually get better, which is scary. They can actually get better. I think every time I see Shai Gilgeous play, he seems to get better. He seems to elevate his game. I watched him last night in a game versus the Warriors. He scored over 50. They lost, but he was amazing in that game. When I look at the Thunder, here's the question. They're terrific in the regular season, Will. And
yes.
Everything says you look at them now, you're like, well, they're going to the Western Conference Finals. They're going to go to the NBA Finals. I don't know what it is. I love Shai. I love their GM. I think they have the best GM in all the NBA, and Sam Presti. And yet my gut feeling is, Will, if you said who you taking, OKC or the Field, I would probably take the Field. I don't think they're going to come out of the Western Conference. I just don't.
Wow.
I know. I know a lot of people are you crazy? I'm like, not at all. I think some teams are built for the regular season and some teams are built for the postseason. Everything points to them going to the finals. And I'm not obviously I'm a Laker fan, but outside of my Lakers going, I'm not rooting against OKC. I'm a big Shai fan, but that's why they call it playoff tested. You have to be playoff tested. And for whatever reason, a team that matches up with them very well when they're whole is the Dallas Mavericks. They just match up with them very well. So I think if they can avoid the Magic or the Mavericks, they might very well walk out of the West. But if you look at the standings in the West right now, Will, there's the Thunder, and then everybody else is like a game or two within each other. That's how close it is. Like there's teams that are in 11th place, and they're just a couple of games out of being in 6th place.
Right.
The West is that bundled up. So the question I have is, of that group, if somebody makes a big enough trade that can elevate them and separate them from the pack, that would be more compelling. I in the East, it's a little bit simpler for me. I know Cleveland's on top, but I'm old school in this. I think the Celtics are still the team to beat in the East.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, even though they haven't played their best basketball, I still think when it comes down to it, if the Celtics walk into the playoffs and they're healthy, the road to the title is going through Boston. No matter what the Cavs have done, what the Knicks are doing. I know the Bucks have played better. I don't see any of those teams being able to beat Boston 4 times in a series.
The Knicks are surging too. They're 73 in their last 10, so they are surging right now.
They're very good. My problem with the Knicks is they don't have a lot of depth.
Nope.
You know how it goes. You've seen the Tom Thibodeau show. My starters are going to play 39, 40 minutes. That's fine. I don't think that's a formula for success in the postseason against the better teams when you get into a series. I just think they need some more depth. And Tibbs, he needs to break from his previous way of thinking.
Yes,
play his young players more. I've heard the argument like, well, the bench isn't that good. They're not that good because you don't play them. Like they're only going to learn through the fire. You've got to put your younger players out there and give them some playing time.
They get no reps.
Yes. I think that's ultimately where the Knicks will fail. They just don't have the depth. They don't have enough depth. I look at a team like the Pacers, they're very unique in that we don't talk about the Pacers that much.
No. But
if you look at their roster, they can go about 9 deep. So I think the Pacers are a very interesting team. So I've enjoyed this current season. But you gotta agree with me on this, Will. The most compelling story so far, outside of what Cleveland and OKC has done, the most compelling story is everything that's going on in Miami.
Yes, I agree. Yes, Mr. Jimmy Butler, multiple times suspended self. I just don't think he's gonna get the money that. I just don't think he's gonna get the money that he wants. Pat Riley gonna end up trading him.
I think whoever agrees to trade for Jimmy, maybe a smart GM will say, like, we'll agree to this trade if you agree to an extension, right?
Right.
Because what you don't want is to give up assets for Jimmy Butler, and he's only going to be there for the rest of this season. That's the scary part, right?
Yep.
That he's a rental, and then he bounces. I think Pat Riley is going to get him up out of here. He might be up out of there this weekend. I think that's him and Pat Riley right now. They're beyond the breaking point. This relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that I've heard a lot of people say, well, I blame Pat Riley because Pat Riley, he didn't let LeBron go. LeBron opted out of his contract. LeBron knew, and knowing the history of LeBron James, he planned to leave Miami. Planned to leave Miami.
Yep.
So that, and I remember the story. Pat Riley flew to Vegas to talk to LeBron. And one of LeBron's flunkies brought Pat Riley to the suite. And Pat Riley, I think he said something to LeBron, and LeBron didn't even acknowledge him. The flunky turned to Pat Riley and said, he's watching soccer right now. He doesn't want to talk. Like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Pat Riley looked at him like, are you crazy? Pat Riley bounced. Like, who do you think I am? Like, I'm gonna be silent while you watching TV? He bounced.
Right.
So look, all I'm saying is Pat Riley has been the voice of the Heat for over decades.
Yep.
He is everything you know about Heat culture. It begins and ends with Pat Riley.
Yep. And
I have no problem with anybody that's saying like, hey, Jimmy Butler's a star. He took you to 2 finals, which he did, and it was amazing runs. But what Pat Riley is saying to Jimmy Butler and whoever's the Jimmy Butler fan is, I know what you did for me in the past, but I already paid you for that.
Right.
I can't pay you for what you might do, knowing that you're 35 years old and you're injury prone. Like what Pat Riley is making the calculation that Jimmy Butler's on the other side of his prime. I agree with Pat Riley.
I do too. Before we get out of here, what's some of your opinions on the Milwaukee Bucks?
They play much better basketball. I think Dame and Giannis do have good chemistry. My only question about the Bucks is, will they have enough firepower in the postseason? Because they got Chris Middleton back, but he still looks like he's just not quite what he was, Will. And I was thinking, look, I'm
I
not
saw
talking
that
about
the other night.
right. I'm not talking about all-star Chris Middleton. I thought if he came back and he could give them 16, 5, and 5,
You'd be
that
good.
that would be good.
You'd
And
be good.
I don't think he's capable of doing that on a consistent basis right now. He's just not quite the same player. So when I look at the Bucks, I was always had this thinking about Milwaukee the last 3 or 4 seasons, and it stands true.
Yes.
Take Giannis out of the equation, and the young man Jackson is going to be in a slam dunk competition. The Bucks are the most unathletic team in the NBA. They're the most unathletic.
Agree with that.
They are. They're the most unathletic team in the NBA. You can overwhelm them with athleticism. They're not athletic. And I think that's a problem. By the way, the second most unathletic team in the NBA is the Lakers. So, I'm not being a homer.
At least you're being truthful.
Yeah, but I think that Milwaukee has gotten a solid rotation. Do I give them a chance to go on a deep run in the East? I do, because I think take the Celtics out of it and just go Milwaukee, New York, Cleveland in a 7-game series. I think Milwaukee's as dangerous as the other two. I do. Note, I did not mention Philly at all because we don't usually mention teams that are 18 and 27. We usually don't.
Don't do that to Philly, man. You gonna get all the Philly fans mad at us.
Well, why are they mad at us? Why not be mad at their team? Why not be mad at Daryl Morey? Don't be mad at me.
They need to be. They really do.
They can read they're reading the same standings that I'm reading.
True. Oh my goodness. All right, my friend. Let's go ahead and shut the show down. Let's go ahead and get on out of here. Everybody get started with their day. Don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow. Brett will be your host tomorrow with Mo. So definitely check us out tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, right here on Wire to Wire Sports. Go ahead and close us out, Mo.
Thank you guys so much for joining us this morning. Hey, make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
All right. That's going to do it for us. I will see you guys again next Wednesday. I will be back. Brett will be with us tomorrow. We'll see you then. Everybody have a great week and take care.